Alright, now with your 3 contractors that you've narrowed down to, let's find one. So this goes to references, and you might even do this before you get too far along. You might even do this, go get references to narrow it down to 3. And contractors, if they offer up their references immediately, take their advice and take it on all their references if you can for any work that's done in the last year. And usually those references that the contractor is providing are going to be good. But you might want to ask, if you're asking a reference and you're talking to that reference for 5 minutes, did you have any problems or any sort of snafus or something that came up that was a hard thing to do and the contractor, got it right or really didn't get it right, or how did they handle certain changes? Now those will all come from references, and hopefully those references will be able to provide you a better reference so that you can figure out, well, I really had, one that I really liked, I established a good rapport with, and that reference really changed my mind, really said, you know what, this guy is a stand-up guy. He was quiet, but at least he stood up and got the project done on time, on budget, etc. And then you want to walk the project site. Usually contractors will want to know the scope of the project and have some ideas. And you can sort of even list this with, say, an architect. So that architect, if you're working with them, or if the general contractor brings a designer, you can start to list out what you're thinking. And it gives the project more of a hands-on feel for them as for you. They'll also know from project to project that they've been doing. You can gauge their experience to say, well, I had wanted to do a bump out here and do this or do that. And they might say, well, in our experience, that might not be worthwhile, and you might have a problem with egress, in other words, how people flow or get around. Or you might have a problem with, just getting through a certain space, or it might be too constricted at certain spots, or you might not have allocated enough space for equipment or furniture, for example. So even walking the project site will give you a good understanding of that and give them a good understanding of how to estimate the project. So whenever you meet and discuss what you want, this can begin with email messages, and it really, really goes to your advantage to meet with them before they sign on for the project, to talk about it and meet with them to discuss. Maybe you'll get half an hour, and maybe that's all you need to understand what's going to happen. But you establish that, again, that personal connection with them, and that's the person that you're going to be dealing with on the site as well. So for you to say, well, this is what my project understanding, and they say, yeah, I get it, your project is like this, this, and this, and we can do all of those things, and we just want to know some of the specifics, and we can really help you out as we go if you select us as the contractor. And that's where you can really get that understanding of how they're going to work with you as part of a team. And people will say, well, you don't really need to meet and discuss with them. You can do that via email and phone conversation, and the contractor won't want to spend the time meeting with you. That's fine. You might want to cross them off the list for that. If they're not taking the time to meet with you or to walk the project with you or talk about it with you, that means they're too busy for your work that you want to give them. Maybe you ask them right there, well, if you don't have the time to meet, is there someone else that might? And they'll certainly get the clue that, hey, you're ready to move on your project, and if you want to talk about this, come and meet with me. And you can meet with them at their offices or their discretion, maybe even at another customer site, like as a reference site. And the idea is, if they're willing to meet with you and you're willing to meet them, it's definitely worth the drive to get there, to talk to them about it, to figure out if they're going to be the contractor for you. So if you reach out to them and say, I can meet you on your project site, maybe a current site, or something else similar, or in your offices, that lets them know that you're willing to go that step, that extra step to work and go and get them, as well as they should meet you halfway to get the project. The value of the estimate is what you're also going to be looking at as well. So whenever they do get around to figuring out what your project is going to be, and you're talking about getting those estimates in, they will probably talk to you about the value of the estimate that they're providing. So the estimates that you're going to get are not likely to be apples to apples, so to speak. They're likely to be apples and oranges and bananas, all right? Especially if you get 3 different estimates in. But you might see that they're suggesting, say, a low-cost bamboo flooring as opposed to doing a high-end custom wood flooring that can, that requires a lot of maintenance in the future. They might point those things out in the value of the estimate, and that's why the price is lower. Or that special hardwood flooring has to match other hardwood flooring and they left that out. Well, that's a ding on them. They should have recognized that you're trying to do the match and they're trying to force in a lower cost item or something like that to help them out. And that should be an alert to you that, hey, maybe they're not listening as much as you expected them to, even though they have a good point or they're trying to make a good point. That wasn't your concern, and you really need to understand the value of those estimates that go in for that. Some possible options that they might suggest might go into those estimates as well. So they might offer to say, well, I really like your indirect lighting or some other aspects that you were talking about, but you might want to consider some other possibilities or other options, such as linear lighting or some other options that might be better options for you to consider as well. And once you're talking with the designer and the architect, they might be able to come up with some of those possible options and list them in that estimate as well. You may or may not approve of them, but at least you understand what those options are. But you may understand all the personal attention and responsiveness just by going through this process. So you're establishing that rapport, you're getting a good idea of what the contractor is offering and what they can give you, but you're getting the idea of how much attention that you're going to get. Yes, that contractor's probably working many projects at the same time, and they're all in different steps and different stages. They're bringing over different personnel at different times. They're trying to arrange all of these different things. And to you, looking from the outside, it might seem like a 3-ring circus. Heck, it might seem like a 3-ring circus to them too. But the idea is, if they're giving some attention to you and responsiveness, be prompt as well. They are being prompt in answering questions. They are giving you their attention. Please do the courtesy of doing the same thing. And that personal attention can really make the difference in getting the job and operating the job. And the idea is they're going to give you that certain attention, and they might not pay attention to you until the project's ready to begin. And again, it can really make owners, developers, etc. antsy whenever there's a contractor that they've signed a contract with and they haven't heard from in a while. So even though they gave them the personal attention right up front and got the project, won the project, don't be surprised if perhaps they go away for a while and they work on other projects and finish them, and then whenever it comes to your project, then they again give you that personal attention. So don't, be understanding. Don't get too stressed out if, for instance, they don't return a call for a week and they're not even looking to begin your project for another month or two. Okay, but if you are persistent and if you are understanding, they'll probably return your calls a lot more readily.